talk that way when you're resting. Guys, we got a lot to get to today, so let's get to it. Russell Westbrook hasn't been himself since returning for the Rockets. He was able to score 17 last night in Game 6 after only 7 in his Game 5 return, but this time it was in a losing effort. Down only 2 with under 10 seconds left, Westbrook drove, made a bad pass that went out of bounds, led to OKC Ball, who would go on to win by 4 and force a Game 7. Shannon, did Russell Westbrook lose the game for the Rockets?
I think we need to give Chris Paul credit for willing his team to win. Skip in the fourth quarter, he was magnificent. And we give a lot of guys credit for a mid-range game, but Chris Paul gets to that elbow, you're in trouble. He did a number on Covington. He had a 3 on Covington, Skip, and going back up the court. Said, yeah, that was a nice try, though, bro. Got James Harden. Skip, I think the thing is for Chris Paul, we know what he does, you know, Skip, as far as he's president of the NBA Players Association. But I think he takes that same mentality to his team. And Skip, they ain't got, first of all, I'm watching them play. I'm like, how in the hell are y'all even in the playoffs? When you really look at them to a man, Skip, they got no business in no playoffs. They're not better. They're not better than Portland. Portland should have a better record. When you look at Dame, CJ, you look at Whiteside, you look at Melo, there's no way. That's got to be Chris Paul. He's not playing.
Wait a minute. Gallinari? Schroeder?
Man, stop playing.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander?
Skip, stop playing.
There's some talent out there.
Man, stop playing.
I'm not. So, hey, Steven Adams is a pretty credible big man.
There's nobody you taking on that team over CJ and Dame.
Well, you could argue Chris Paul.
But Chris Paul over CJ, not Dame.
Did you hear Chris Paul talking about Schroeder after the game?
Yes.
He's got that dog. I want to go to war with him.
Skip,
listen, Schroeder as a 6-man just lights you up. He plays so hard. He's electric.
But Chris Paul, what he was able to do in the fourth quarter with those 15 big points, he was perfect from the three-point line. When his teammates were struggling, he found a way to get the ball in his hands, get to his spot, put the ball in the bucket. Let's look. Russ is trying to get back. He's trying to play his way back into conditioning, and he turned the ball over. Now, he played better on an offensive standpoint than he did in his first game back, Skip. He was 3 of 13, didn't play particularly well. Yesterday, those turnovers really hurt, especially that last one probably doomed him in the ball game.
Well, probably.
But Skip, I mean, you have to get him down. He's trying to play his way back. Remember how Trez looked his first couple of games back? He didn't look like the Trez that had left. Russ does not look like the guy that before he got injured. So you got to take that in consideration. People think that, oh, you get hurt, he's great. He's just going to come back and pick right up where he left off. That's not how it works in pro sports. So I want to give Chris Paul credit as opposed to just blaming Russ. Russ didn't play well. But in the fourth quarter, Chris Paul played unbelievable. Gallinari did hit some big shots down the stretch. But I think the biggest thing they did, Skip, is that they kept James Harden off the foul line. And we said, well, James Harden, he still shot 8. He normally shoots 18. And I think that's the key for the Rockets. They're going to make some shots, but you can't get discouraged. Covington hit some big threes. James Harden is at the buzzer, Skip, stepping back almost out of bounds, nailing threes. But I think the biggest thing for OKC, they didn't get discouraged. And when the Rockets had the ball up by 6 with like 3 minutes to go, I'm like, man, this thing over. And the next thing you know, they miss. And here comes Chris Paul dancing. He's dancing, and they win the ball game. But instead of blaming Russ, I think we should highlight Chris Paul.
I have tried my whole career to love Russell Westbrook because he plays so hard every play.
Sometimes too hard.
You can argue. Last night, too hard, trying to do too much, trying to take over the game when you have a running mate he's pretty good, this guy Harden. He became an afterthought down the stretch. Last night, I'm going to give Chris Paul lots of credit because you're right. He willed his team to this victory. But the door was left wide open again and again and again by Russell Westbrook, which I've called him before, and he'll turn into Westbrook when you least expect it and least need him to. And he turns into that hell on wheels, whirling dervish. Get out of my way. I'm going to do it all. And it's hard to win basketball games against good teams, well-coached teams who play just as hard as you're playing. It's hard to win as a solo act, and he only knows solo act. in a good way, for the most part, he plays egomaniacal basketball. And it's still, as you know, it's a team game.
It is.
And when you're only 6'3", it's hard for you to be just a solo act. And in the end, I still wonder, I ask myself every night I watch him, is he playing for him or for them? Is he playing to win it or to stat it? Is it about the stat? 3 straight years in Oklahoma City as a solo act, he averaged a triple-double.
Yes.
That's preposterous. That's we thought that impossible.
Yeah, we thought Big O was no one could do what he did.
No way, and he did it 3 straight years because he played so much harder than everybody else, chasing down 50-50 loose ball rebounds.
Yes.
And he got it in his head, oh, if I get to the cup and at the last second I leave it for Steven Adams, I get an assist. And they start to pile up and I can average 10 assists and I can lead the league in scoring and assists.
Right.
But last night, he turned back into Russell East, West, North, and South Brook because he's going every direction at once, 1,000 miles an hour. His body looks like it's completely out of control.
He did look like he was out of control a lot last night.
Just out of control with no plan. And obviously, if you leave your feet in basketball with the ball in your hands and you don't have a plan, bad things are going to happen.
Turnover.
Because if your feet come back down, you travel, and at the last second, you're like, I should do what? I don't know what to do, so I'll just throw it out of bounds.
Right.
Which basically happened on the last play. So before I get to the last play, I'm going to say this, because this is what I slept on and what this game left me with. I've rooted for these guys all year because they incredibly, Russ and James love each other so much because they're both Southern California kids from the LA area where we are sitting right now. That for once they had enough respect for each other that they will defer. They will take turns, like happily take turns, where they seem unconcerned. Maybe behind the scenes they're going at it. I don't know, but it looks like they've done pretty well, and yet they went 44-28, which tied with, guess who? The Thunder. And I didn't see the Thunder coming. I thought they were rebuilding. I thought they had a stockpile of draft choices, and it felt like Houston had finally given up on CP3 because he's always hurt. He's always pulling something at the worst moment. Big time. We're up 3-1 on Golden State in 2018 conference finals, and he pulls a hamstring for games 6 and 7, and you're out. Right? So it felt like Daryl Morey in Houston, the GM, finally said, I can't take this anymore. I can't trust your health. I'm going to go with Westbrook because he and James are close, and they obviously grew up together in Oklahoma City also, not just L.A. And I'm shipping you out to that last outpost. It's my hometown, Oklahoma City, so I can say that. But it felt like you sort of get shipped to the NBA Siberia. You know, you're up there with the Thunder, and there's nothing left in the cupboard up there. All the stars are gone.
Because remember, they traded Paul George also.
They did.
So
they've had Durant, they've had Harden, and they've had Russ and Paul George, and now it looked like CP3 or bust, right? Or else. And he has been on a mission all year long to show them that they were wrong. And he led this league in what are called clutch points, which is just impossible that he's only like 6 feet tall. And he did that. It's the best. I can argue from start to finish it was the best year of his career. And last night you can argue was the best playoff game of his career because to your point,